I greet you in the name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua Messiah. It is October the 3rd. It is just before 4 o'clock in the afternoon here in South Africa. And we're quite deep into the first day of Tabernacles on the Hebrew calendar. I just need to explain to you, I was not intending, when I started this teaching, I wasn't intending on doing it in 2 parts, or I don't even know if it'll be 3 parts. We'll see how it goes. And I got to about half an hour into the last video, and things were just starting to go a little bit pear-shaped. I was starting to get a lot of distractions, a lot of background noise, and I just felt in the spirit, I just felt I was getting increasingly uneasy, and I decided to just pause the recording and took a break, went for a shower, prayed about it. And then, of course, Satan comes along and he just says, Ivan, why even bother doing this? Nobody's going to listen to it in any case. Nobody's listening. Everybody's got their own ideas. And you're just adding more noise to the tremendous amount of noise that's out there. So I was almost contemplating just, dumping the whole idea. Anyway, so I prayed about it, and I felt that I came to the conclusion that was an attack from the enemy, and that I should carry on. I should pursue. I came back to the recording, and I decided to edit the last section that was starting to get a little bit crazy, and decided to upload it and create a first part, and then then start again for the second part. And it just never kind of came together last night, and I decided to leave it for today. I started uploading that first part of the video last night, and I had to complete it this morning, and when I got to about 90%, 91%, the upload crashed. And I bombed out completely, so I had to restart all over again. And on the network that we've got, downstreaming is fine, but uploading is like extremely slow. So it takes literally about 3-4 hours to upload even a short video of half an hour. So anyway, so I started the upload again, and I've just finished that. So the first part is now available on the channel, and so I'm feeling a little bit more upbeat. I got through that first hurdle, and I'm just going to continue on from where I left off and try and get through with this explanation of the last day's calendar and the sequence of events that I believe is about to happen with the beginning of the tribulation, the 14-year tribulation, as I explained in the previous part. I got to the part where I was talking about the escape group that's clearly evident in Revelations. I never got to show you the second group, so I'm going to pick up from that point where we're talking about the first group that escapes before the tribulation, and the evidence of such a group, and comprising of several parts in Revelations chapter 4 and 5, but particularly Revelations 5, where we've got the elders, the 24 elders, and the 4 beasts, and they sing a new song, and they say that they have been redeemed. Now, only humans can be redeemed. Animals and angels can't be redeemed. So this group of 24 elders and the 4 beasts, even though it calls them beasts, I believe it's a Gentile group, and that's the reason for it being called beasts. And they say that we've been redeemed. Okay, so there's this part of the bride that's been redeemed, and they say that they've been redeemed by God by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. So this is a group that comes from every possible group and nation out in the world. It's a mixed group. Okay, this is not just of the 12 tribes of Israel. This is from all the different nations. And then they go on to say that thou hast made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. Then we've got this other group that Revelations calls many angels, and they sing with a loud voice, and they stand around the throne, and around the beast and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands. So it seems like a two-part group there, and I believe this is the rest of the bridal party, the bridal group. So there's at least 3 parts, probably 4 parts to the bridal group that will leave first, and whether they will all depart on simultaneously, I'm not sure. I think they'll be leaving in parts, and they'll have different functions. I think the beasts are speaking of the 144,000, the first group of 144,000. Okay, there is another group of 144,000 that's clearly explained in Revelations chapter 7 that are from the 12 tribes of Israel. But there's also, in my view, a second group of 144,000 that's described in Revelations 14, and that the description of that group of 144,000 doesn't match the description of the group that's in Revelation 7. And I believe that even though the group of 144,000 that's described in Revelations 14 is described after the Revelation 7 group, I believe they come first. I believe they're not sealed, they are selected, they are chosen before the seals. It's the 144,000 that are selected in Revelation 7, which is after the seals. They are sealed in preparation for the next stage, which will be for trumpets, and they come out of the 12 tribes of Israel. And they are clearly defined there. So I believe that the beasts here, the 4 beasts, comprise of 4 groups, making up 144,000 working group, the working bride. The 24 elders I had in mind that they could be those that were resurrected at the time that Jesus was resurrected, were resurrected from the dead. Some of the saints and our forefathers that were raised at that time. Matthew clearly says that some people were raised from the graves at the time that Jesus was resurrected, and that could be this 24 elders. I'm not sure. Or I've also had an idea that the 24 elders are part of the initial bride as well, and that first group that were resurrected at the time of Jesus is not even described at all, possibly in Revelations. So this is all new stuff, all the things that are going to happen from this point going forward. And so I just want there's something that I just need to point out, and the kind of things that I believe they get what they say. You'll see if we have a look at what they say here. The 24 elders, and they sing a new song there. I think it was in Revelation 4 where the 24 elders are also mentioned. Okay, let's just have a look at that. Around about there were 4 beasts full of eyes. Okay, that's okay. These are the different animals it speaks of: the lion, the calf. They had a face of a man and the face of an eagle. I think that's just describing the nature of the 4 groups. Each of them has a specific role, a specific function, and that's why they are depicted by these different faces. And they have 6 wings. I think that just kind of gives you an idea of the size of the group and the makeup of the group. I think it'll be 4 groups of 30,000, and the 30,000 are broken up into 6 groups of 5,000. That's just my idea. I don't want to get too much into that, but that's the what I wanted to get to is what they say. So the beasts, they give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne. Okay, so they give and then the 24 elders, they say, "Thou art worthy to receive glory and honor and power." So here we've got glory and honor and thanks, and here we've got the 24 elders receive glory and honor and power. And then later on, when we've got this group of 10,000 times 10,000, they say with a loud voice, they say that you're worthy. So they say you're worthy. Worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessings. So I think that's kind of pointing to, although they say, you're worthy to, they're speaking to the Lamb, I think it's pointing to what they say, what they get, so to speak. So that's the bridal group. And then I just need to get to this other group that we talk about here that'll be raptured. at the end of seals, and they are described in Revelations chapter 7. When we go and have a look in Revelation 7, which is after all the seals, after the 7 seals, we see that John said this, after this I beheld and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, that stood before the throne and before the Lamb, and they were clothed in white robes and palms in their hands. So that's a very different group to the group that was described here in Revelations 5. And this group is a group that no man could number. So it's a much larger group. The group in 5 was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands. This is a much, much larger group, and we don't even know what the size of the group is. We just know it's huge. And they cry with a loud voice. Okay, so there's a link to this group that's similar to the group, but in terms of the loud voice. And they say, salvation to our God. That's all they say. They're just saying salvation to our God. They don't speak about the glory, the power, and all those other things that the first group spoke of. So this is definitely a different group, and this is the group that comes in, the 90% of the church that gets raptured after the seals, after the time of 7 years of tribulation, the first 7 years of tribulation. Okay, and even John says that when John says one of the elders, one of the elders came to John and saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence do they come? And he said, well, you know. And he said, these are they which came out of the great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. So these were people that didn't have white robes before the tribulation, and now they've made their robes white in the blood of the Lamb, and now they stand in white robes and palms in their hands. And it goes on to say that they shall hunger no more, so they must have hungered, neither thirst anymore, neither shall the sun shine light on them anymore, nor any heat. So they clearly went through some serious stuff. And then it goes on, for the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them into living fountains of water. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. So, you know, we know that Jesus said there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay, so we've clearly got two groups that are described. One set of groups is before the seals, and the next group, the multitude, is referred to after the seals. So that's why I believe that there are clearly two groups, and that in Revelations we've got them clearly described, the escape group, the bride, and then we've got the rapture group, which comes after the seals, the larger group. And then of course there will be some that will be resurrected at the end of the trumpets. So if we get into getting back to the structure now, we want before we get into the detail of what Daniel is saying, I think we should, the best way to deal with this detail is first to have a look at Revelations, and how Revelations gives us a breakdown of the 7 seals. I don't want to get into every single little detail of what the seals are and what they comprise of. That you can go and read up. I just want to, the purpose of this exercise is just to give you the structure, that when you go and read through Revelations and you look at the detail, that you can know where it kind of fits in within this framework. And that's really, if I can just impart that, and some of the reasons why I place these things where I place them, just to give you that. So this is not about getting into the nth detail of what Revelations is all about, but yeah. So if we look at the 7 years. The 7 years can be broken up into really two parts. The first 7 years can be broken up into two parts. Where the beginning part, we've got the opening of the first 3 seals. That's the white horse, the red horse, and the black horse that will be opened up. And this is the time when the beast system is established. There'll be some degree of persecution of the church, I believe. Yeah. And when you read the content of these things, this seems to be the rollout of the whole system, and probably the introduction of the mark of the beast, maybe not mandatory at this point in time, But this is when the whole system is established. At this stage, there's a tremendous amount of chaos has already happened on the earth, and I believe this first few 40 days and or the first 6 months will be hugely chaotic. Things will calm down a little bit, but the Antichrist and the false prophet will come on the scene, maybe not recognized totally by all. But the system itself needs to be established, and it'll be more of a gradual process. The one thing that I think that will happen right in the very beginning is this transgression of desolation that's mentioned in Daniel 8:12, and I just want to distinguish that from the abomination of desolation that happens later on. There are two things that are mentioned in Daniel. We've got this abomination, and that causes desolation, and then we've got the transgression of desolation, and I think that's what's happening right now. This transgression of desolation is more to do with the breaking of the covenant with regards to the land. It's this Abrahamic deal that they've just signed now, the splitting of the land. It's God's lands, and they're busy doing with it what they please, and that's a transgression of the covenant. That's a transgression of the rules. It's not necessarily an abomination, but they're getting into if you go and read, this time period is all about completing the transgression and completing the sin. So that's what this is all about. So if we look at Daniel 8 is all about there's a story to this thing, and maybe I should just get into it a little bit, because I think that this will be maybe not the kickoff event, but I believe that this will happen very early in the time of the seals. Maybe during the time of the red horse seal. This event that's described here in Daniel 8 might actually be the kickoff to the red horse rider. The white horse rider is arguably the Son of Man, Jesus, that'll be here for 40 days. I know the church believes that the Antichrist comes first, but there's enough evidence to show that Jesus will be here as a warning for a period of 40 days. And without getting into too much detail on that, it's all available on Alan's teachings. There's a time of 40 days where Jesus will be as a warning for the church, and there might even be a group that'll be able to escape by the skin of their teeth. That if they accept that this Jesus being here, performing miracles, and showing himself, the majority of the world will reject him, but there might be a few people that will accept him. There might be a few people that might be able to just escape after the original bride, and that might be the thousands of thousands. I don't know. This is theoretically, this is after the seals are already opened. If Jesus is the white horse rider, the first seal, then maybe not. Maybe it's also just preparing a group, getting them into the safe areas and things like that. So there's a lot of things happening in this beginning stage, a lot of confusion, with people having disappeared, a lot of deception. All of those things are happening in this time period here. And then we've got this whole story in Daniel 8 where we've got it's the story of the ram with two horns, and the goat with a single horn comes in and this basically attacks and perhaps not destroys the ram, but certainly the two horns are broken. Okay, and at that time, shortly after that, the prominent horn of the goat is broken also, and then four horns come in its place. So there's a fair amount of debate as to what this all is. I know some people believe that this is a prophecy that was already fulfilled at the time of Alexander the Great. I don't believe so. This is something that was set for the time of the end, so I think it even tells us here that it's. Let me just see, I didn't highlight it here now. Yeah, and he said, and behold, I will make thee to know that what shall be in the last end of the indignation, okay, the transgression, for at the time appointed the end shall be. So this is for this is one of the places where it says time of the end, and there's So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid, and I fell upon my face, and he said unto me, Understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end, for that the time of the end shall be the vision. So twice Daniel is told this is for at the time of the end. This vision is for the last days, and that's what I believe that we're going to see happening now. There are, my interpretation of this is that we are told that the ram is Persia, which is Iran, and we are told that the goat with the prominent horn is Grisha, but Grisha, it means Javan. Javan is the if you go look at the original translation on that. Let's just go there. Let's just see it's Grisha. This was see Javan. So if you go and have a look there, you see I can't move the cursor now, then it'll disappear. But if you have a look there, it says from this, it's Javan, the name of the son of Yoktan, of the race of, and it goes on. Anyway, Javan. If you go and research this is the people that were descendants of Noah's third son, Joseph. So the descendants, Yavan was of Joseph, those descendants that moved. That's of the Greeks. So we've got this group, and I believe that we're speaking here of the people of the West, not necessarily of just the country Greece. So it's the greater area. Okay, I don't think it even says here Grecia. If we go now, I think it's a bit earlier in this chapter where the goat came from the west on the face of the whole of the earth. So from the west on the face of the whole these things of the earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. So I believe that the goat is really speaking about the king. The notable horn is the king of the west, which I interpret as to be in these days is I believe it's Trump. I believe Trump is the king of the West, and he's going to and USA will come across the face of the earth without touching the ground, and they will either take out the two kings of Iran, or at least disable them, that they no longer have power or an authority. I'm not sure exactly how that will happen, but they will basically be rendered powerless. So this is, I believe, will be one of the kickoff. And then after that happens, we were told that the horn, the goat waxed very great. Then when he was strong, the great horn was broken. So, and I just when this horn is broken, four notable ones will come towards the four winds of heaven. So four come up in that great horn's place. And so if this is Trump and it's broken, then it looks like the West, or at least the USA, will be split up into four. And out of the four, there's one that becomes quite prominent. And when the story goes on to, and I believe it's, if not I don't believe it's Antichrist, but I believe it's the destroyer of the Gentiles. And it could well be Obama. I don't believe Obama is the Antichrist. The Antichrist is an Arab, but Obama could be the destroyer of the Gentiles that comes prominent. Is the horn that becomes prominent out of these four, and this goes into how he just increases in power, and he trots, and he actually seems to attack or cause the attack on Israel that will actually be the final destruction of Israel. So if you go and read through this, it seems like this all starts off with a small attack on Jerusalem, then attack by the USA on Iran, accusing them of maybe the regional attack, taking out the two kings of Iran, and then Trump being replaced by one of the four, then coming to power very quickly, probably Obama, and then attacking Israel. and taking them out. They no longer will have control of their land, and taking control of that land and trampling this the courts. And if we're going to have a look at why I say trampling the courts, it's all here in this Daniel 8:13, because we've got if you go, just let's go to Daniel 8:13 towards the end of the story. Is 8:13. There it is. Sorry, I'm just going to switch back because these little boxes 8:13 are quite annoying. So when I heard one of the saints speak to another saint, said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of the desolation? Yeah, we got the transgression of desolation that I spoke about there. That's so the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot. Okay, so how long is this going to be? And he said unto me, 2,300 days. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So that's where we get this 2,300. So from the time that of this transgression of desolation, and they'll be trotting underfoot for this 2,300 days, which is equivalent to 6 years and 4 months. So for the greater part of the time of the seals, the Gentiles will be trotting over Jerusalem and the Holy Land. So that's where that comes in. So that fills in very nicely. And now we've got the beginning part of the beast system being established, and then we've got the next half of the 7 years, which is the 4 seals start opening. And then the 4th seal is the pale horse. That's now the Antichrist coming to full power, and that's death follows the pale horse, and there's many things start really getting hotted up here. By the 5th seal, we've got, that's the martyrs that are under the altar, and they cry, when will they be revenged for the way, because they were killed, they were beheaded. And Jesus said that gives them white robes, and that's part of the group that are of the great multitude without number in that we see in Revelation 7, standing with white robes. They are given white robes, those that are martyred. And we've got more, and he says there are more to be added during the 6th seal. So this is when the Antichrist comes to full power. Okay, and that's given to us over here, where in Revelations 11:12, Revelation 11:12, it says that the Gentiles will trample out of court underfoot for 42 months. Okay, 42 months is 3 years and 6 months. So that's where the 3.5 years comes in, and that's what will happen during that time. And then it also says in Revelations 13:5, it says that power is given to continue. The beast is given power to continue for 42 months. So that's 2 different places in Revelations where it talks about 42 months. It must be the same. Whenever it talks about the same time period, they are happening simultaneously, I believe. So we've got two things that are happening. We've got the trampling, and and he's given power to continue. So it means he came into power in the first part, and now he's given power to continue. And this is when things really, really get bad, through up until the 6th seal. And the 6th seal is when judgment is now executed, and we've got all those really bad things, the earthquakes, and well, we can go and read the 6th seal. It's right at the end of it's Revelations 6. It's at the end. Opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became dark as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars fell from heaven unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll, and when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. So what's actually happening here is all these really bad things are happening, and this huge big rock or something is coming out of the heavens. Something's coming out of the heaven. It makes the mountains on earth look pale in significance to this whatever it is that's coming, and this is the throne of God that's actually coming with the Lamb. So it's the throne of God with God, the Father and the Lamb are coming down at the sixth seal. And this is at the time when they now deal with these Gentiles that have been trampling the land. And they there's a clean-up time. This is the Ezekiel 38-39 war. I know everybody thinks that the Ezekiel 38-39 war happens over here at the beginning of tribulation. It doesn't. It happens at the beginning of trumpets. This is where God cleans up, and all these Gentiles that have been just treading all over his land and making themselves very comfortable there. And this is also at this time when the second lot of 144,000 are sealed. The 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel are sealed in preparation to work now during the times of trumpets. So that's what you've got there. Those two 42-month periods that are brought to an end at the end of the sixth seal, and then you've got the rapture and the time of rest. So we've now gone through 6 years, 6.5 years, 3,200 days, and then he cleans up, and we've got a short break. That's the Sabbath break, and then starts trumpets. So I don't know, that to me just makes a lot of sense. When you look at it from that perspective, it just all seemed to fit. There's no contradiction here. I'm going to leave you guys to go and read up on each of these, and you can see for yourself how these things fit together. Then if we get into the next 7 years, this is now the time of the 7 years of trumpets. So again, we've got broken up into two sections. The first 4 trumpets are relatively mild. When you read the things that kind of happen there, they're really bad, but by comparison to the things that happen in the 5th and 6th trumpet, it's like it's mild. It's way worse than what happened in the seals, but it's not quite the full devastation of things that happened at the time of this abomination of desolation. And so that's what we see in the first few trumpets that are happening here during this time period. And it's also the time when the 2 witnesses are testifying. We've got the two in Revelations 11:3, which follows the 42 months of the Gentiles trampling. You see Revelation 11:2, and then in Revelation 11:3 you've got the 2 witnesses, and they testify for 1,260 days. That also equals about 3.5 years. And then at the same time in Revelation 12:6 you've got the woman that flees into the wilderness for the same time period, 1,260 days. So that must be happening at the same time. Okay, so you can see how the descriptions fit each other. So we've got the woman fleeing. This is now the remnant of Israel, those that were still not ready for the rapture. They missed escape and they missed their rapture. And we're talking here about the Jews and maybe a couple of people that are of the tribes of Israel that were still not ready, and they have to flee, and they are basically protected for a time period in this 3.5 years in the wilderness. Okay, this is when God turns back to deal with the Jews, as described in Romans. So God turns back to them, and their blindness is removed, and now they recognize their Messiah, and He protects them. And there's the rebuilding of the walls and the streets in Jerusalem after it was destroyed here. So it was destroyed here. Nothing gets happened. Nothing gets rebuilt until here. Now under Jesus' protection, under the protection of Mount Zion, this great mountain that came down, they rebuilt the city and the streets for the first 3.5 years. And that's during these things are happening while these witnesses are going out and testifying and teaching all the people the truth of what happened, whatever it is that they do. And then we've got the 5th trumpet that happens, and that's when the pit is opened, and Apollyon comes out of the pit, and all those other monstrous things. We've got those great cloud of locust-looking beings, probably demons and all sorts of evil things that are coming out of the pit, and so the key of the pit is given out at the fifth trumpet, and at this stage the war now moves from heaven to earth. So I believe that we've got in Revelation 12 there's war in heaven. That happens here. We've got this war in heaven until Satan is kicked out and no more place is found for him. In Revelation 12 it says no more place is found for him in heaven, and he's booted out, and this is where he's now booted out to heaven, booted out of heaven to earth. And now the war shifts from heaven to an earthly realm. Now we're talking about not just a war between men and men. We're talking about a war between the angelic beings and men and angels. This is a really bad time that's going to happen for 2.5 years. The 2.5 years is times and half a time in Daniel 12:7. So times, it says time, comma, times and half a time. So it's a time as in the whole time, but it's times 2 years and half a year, and that's in Daniel 12:7 that's described there. This is the war against Satan that takes place after the fifth trumpet. This is the first and the second, and then of course you've got the sixth trumpet, and this is the first and the second woe that now happens, that's described in Revelations. Okay. At that same time, I believe we got the 1,290 days that's described in Daniel 11. Daniel 12:11. That's the that's mentioned there. That falls. That's now. It's now after the 1,260 days. We've got another 3.5. Well, it's actually a little bit longer than. It's 3 years and 7 months. And so we've got of the first 2.5. There's the war until Jesus returns a foot down on Mount Olives, and this is Armageddon. He comes in and he cleans up. So Jesus returns at this point here, and it's a year of cleanup, or probably 6 months of cleanup, and then the 6 months of rest before the millennial reign starts. And this is the final. Again, this exact same structure. Six years of works, and then the 70th rest. This is the nighttime of Armageddon, and then the daytime of Jubilee, at least the Sabbath rest. And this is a Jubilee year, so the land gets returned to the rightful owners, and we start off with the millennial reign of Jesus on earth for 1,000 years, reigning from from Jerusalem on Mount Zion that's come down. It came down here. So these things are, and then at that time we've also got this other woman that flees into the wilderness for times, wilderness for time and times and half a time. So that's 3.5 years. It's different from this. So this is a full 3.5 years. So for that whole time, after having started building the streets and the walls, when Satan gets kicked out, he now becomes the abomination of desolation that sits in the temple as if he's God. And the people that were doing this have to flee now into the wilderness, into a place that's prepared, a place of protection, and that's all in Revelations 12:14. And then of course there's the bowls that need to the 7 bowls. There's a possibility the 7 bowls are poured out in a time of about 7 months at this point in time, but I suspect that the 7 bowls are left for another 7 years of when Satan, after having been locked up for 1,000 years, he gets released for a short time, and he gets a last stab at beating Jesus, and that may well be the last 7 years, followed by the bowls, which is now the total destruction. All the bowls are now, where the trumpets were partial destruction, a third of this, a third of that, a third of this, a third of the trees, a third of the grass, a third of the sea, a third of the waters. In the bowls, it's total destruction. And whether that happens here and then God fixes up the world before the 1,000 years of reign, it's possible. I think it's more likely that the bowls of total destruction are after the 1,000 years of reign, and then after the total destruction of everything and everybody's judged at the great white seat, then God, the new heaven and new earth are made, and the eternity begins. So those are just some of the ideas that I've tried to chart out over here. I know haven't gone into a lot of I would need a lot more time to go into the nth detail of every single one of these verses and the descriptions behind them. But I think if you follow this structure and you go and read the verses, I think you will come to a similar conclusion that I've come to, that everything just fits in without contradictions. In any case, I think the main goal is to try and be part of the bride that escapes, and not to be sitting here for the time of seals, and definitely not for the time of trumpets. But it's just interesting to know how all of these pieces hang together, and how it all and this is really God's plan for the restoration of all things. So yeah, I think that's I can't think of anything else that I really want to go into too much detail on now. So just a last overview. We had 21 years for last days. First 7 years are done. We're about to go into the final 14, and escape of the bride, and then 7 for the church, with the rapture at the end of the 6.5, completed in the 7th year, and then starts the trumpets. Yeah, I think that's pretty much, I've achieved what I wanted to do. I have put this thing out. I'll put a link to this document. I'll make the document available on the G Drive, with a link in the description box of this video for those that want to download it, and you can play around with it and make adjustments or whatever. I hope this will add some value to you guys. I think it's all very exciting. It's been exciting putting this thing together and trying to get an understanding of all these days that can be really confusing, because you can see they're all over the place. And once you've got some degree of order and you place the details in there, it's really amazing to see how the word actually comes together. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Amen.